Who pays more for medical services? Those that are on Medicare Supplements or those that are on Medicare Advantage? And I'm not going to get into the debate as to which one's better, but I'm going to reference some research that has just come out that says which of these clientele or which group actually uses services more and pays more in the end for medical services. Let me bring in my co-host, Tony Shore. Tony, welcome to the show. We're talking Medicare Advantage versus Medicare Supplements, but not which one's better or which one is good for you, to the listener. We're going to talk about which one actually uses, who uses it more, who actually costs the institutions more money to actually go about getting medical care. Who uses health services more, those on Medicare Advantage or those on Medicare Supplement?
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're
and
not saying, are you going to answer the question, which do people use more? Like, are there more people out there using Medicare Advantage, or are
no,
there more people out there using supplements?
where's the money going? Those
Okay.
are more money being spent by those on Medicare Supplements, or those being spent more money being spent by those on Medicare Advantage? And
Okay.
this is coming out of the Michigan Retirement and Disability Research Center, University of Michigan. They came out with a study called Insurance Purchases of Older Americans, hence Medicare for
Okay.
those, typically at age 65. And there's a link below for those that are watching on YouTube. You can read along if you want. I'm going to highlight the key points, but just a quick primer for those that have no idea what I'm talking about. Medicare Advantage plans, you see a lot of these on TV, especially here in Florida. There are dedicated channels to them. Come join us. You join the plan, you stay in network, and you usually don't pay anything. Sometimes they pay you to join. And a lot of these companies offer it. Very competitive, very competitive. And it's usually an HMO. So it's a network. You see your primary, get referrals, and you stay in network, and everything's covered that traditional Medicare does not cover for cost, for a copay, something like that. On the flip side, there's the Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplements, or sometimes known as Medigap. And these you pay for, but they are in addition to Medicare, traditional Medicare, you actually pay an insurance company and they cover the difference. And these are Plan N, Plan G, you hear those types of things.
Sure.
So I've been, I don't know if you know this, Tony, but when I used to be into, heavily into risk and stocks trading. And when I transitioned over to retirement planning, the first thing I did was obtain an insurance license so I can understand and learn and be able to talk intelligently about Medicare.
Makes sense.
Because I found a lot of people in that demographic going through retirement were hypersensitive to health insurance costs. And I felt I need to know this. So 15, 20 years ago, I got licensed and was working and helping people with Medicare and understanding that. So I've not let that go, and I still do that. And believe it or not, it's still a huge part of retirement planning.
Oh, I imagine Medicare is a huge part of retirement planning, and I know a lot of advisors in their office have work alongside or have Medicare specialists, but really what they end up doing is they're selling Medicare Advantage plans or supplemental plans, right?
Right, right. And so you get this debate a lot of times, and it gets contentious as to which one's better. And the
Right.
answer to that is, well, it depends on the situation. But
Right.
I would say, anecdotally, of the hundreds of people that I have on in my care, under my books, and whatever you want to call it, I'd say about 60% are on supplements and 40 on Medicare Advantage.
Wow.
So it's not as if it's one size fits all. Uh,
No. In
there's
fact, I
reason.
just looked up the number. I looked up how many people are using Medicare Advantage, and according to government studies, 51% of all eligible Medicare people, and this is as of a year or two ago, 51% are utilize Medicare Advantage now. And that number is
Yeah.
significantly up from last year or the year
It's going to
before that.
grow. I think it's going to grow because, well, that's a different story, but I
Sure.
see the trend going
Yeah.
toward these all-inclusive plans that include drugs and gym memberships and hair
Hearing, vision, and dental are the 3 biggies that Advantage covers that a lot of plans, or regular Medicare doesn't, right?
supplements, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. But in this, I found this research paper interesting because one of the main drivers of this decision for a lot of people is cost. And it's like, okay,
Right.
I'm going to have to pay extra Medicare for a Medicare supplement versus using Medicare Advantage. But then people will say, well, then there's co-pays for Medicare Advantage and out-of-pockets expenses. So which one do you pay more? So I found this title interesting. Insurance purchases of older Americans. So I read it and I found a few things interesting that I want to share quotes. So the first quote, we find that those who purchase Medigap tend to spend approximately $2,300 more than those who do not. And that's per year. So Medicare supplements are costing $2,300 more than those that are on Medicare Advantage. And that already, I was like, of course, because people are spending a couple hundred a month for a supplement.
Yeah.
No, that's not including premium. So this is saying,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Oh, they're
So
spending more on medical care in general.
yes. Now, I
Huh.
was looking at this saying that doesn't seem right, because if you get a plan that say Plan G, and the only thing you're responsible for is the deductible of less than 300 or so, how can you be spending 2,300 more? And what they're talking about is overall. So when you look at the total cost to the government, because someone's paying for this, right? The insurance companies.
Mhm.
When you look at those on Medicare supplements versus those on Medicare Advantage,
Mhm.
who's using more services? Who's utilizing and spending, assuming the costs are the same for each different service? Those that have Medicare supplement are actually using it more and causing $2,300 more in expenses overall. So I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And they wanted to know why. Okay. And so next quote, those with Medigap coverage or supplements are healthier than those without coverage, rejecting the hypothesis of adverse selection in this market. So in other words, the answer isn't people are buying supplements because they're unhealthy. So of course, they're going to use more services because they're not healthy. It's quite the opposite. People that buy supplements tend to be healthier and tend to be wealthier because they're paying for this. Yet they're still using the services more. So why would a healthier population be using more services than the unhealthier population
Yeah.
comparatively?
Good question.
So this is what they were trying to figure out, because initially they're like, oh, of course, unhealthier people are going to use it more, but that's the opposite is true. So why? Let's keep going. Next quote, those with Medigap face lower out-of-pocket prices for additional medical care, which may increase demand. We cannot directly measure moral hazard, end quote. I'll explain the moral hazard piece in a
Yeah, what
moment,
does
but
all that mean?
those with Medigap, if you have a Medicare supplement and you need to go get a service done, it's going to cost you less
Mhm.
out of pocket at that moment than if you had a Medicare Advantage typically. So someone on a Plan G, for instance, and I'm getting in the weeds here, but this is of interest to certain people, and very interesting to me. If you have a Plan G and you're only out of pocket as your deductible at the beginning of the year, then mid-year you need to get a test. You don't shop it around. You just go to anyone who takes Medicare. They'll accept it and you don't pay anything. There's no out of pocket. Whereas if you're on an Advantage plan, you pay a copay every time you go and use something. So it actually costs you more on a Medicare Advantage to actually use the service than it does on a supplement. And because of that, it brings up a moral hazard. And I'll explain it in the next quote. Quote, our results are consistent with the view that this higher spending is caused by moral hazard driven by lower out-of-pocket prices for additional care faced by those with Medigap, end quote. In other words, because it doesn't cost you anything extra to go get that test, to go see that specialist, to go get the additional service, you're just going to go and use it. It's kind of like this, Tony. I'll use an example.
I see.
If you went to Disney recently, right?
Yep.
Now, I'm not a fan of it. When my kids were younger, we used to go, but I'm not a big fan of standing in hot, long lines.
Right.
Now,
Me either.
if I bought the annual pass for a flat fee versus paid per time I went, which year would I go more? The one I have the annual pass or the one that I have to pay each time I go?
Annual pass.
Of course, because I'm like, all right, I need to go 3.6 times to make this worth it. So now that I've gone 4 times, I'm already ahead of the game. So why not go again? They want to go for Christmas? Okay, let's go. Its pass is almost over. Might as well use it. And that's the kind of moral hazard that they're suggesting a Medigap or a Medicare supplement provides. Is you've already paying monthly for your supplement, whether you use it or not. So why not use it? My elbow hurts, I'm going to the doctor, right? What anytime you get a sniffle, why not? Doesn't cost me anything, doesn't cost you anything, but you're still causing
Costs.
expenses to
There
be
are
built
costs. Yeah.
in the system because
Got it.
Medicare is
Now I get it.
so that's what
The
they're saying,
Disney World, the Disney Pass, season pass really brought it all home for me.
right? If you go and have a Disney pass
Yeah.
and you go during the month of July and August, you might need to go to the doctors after that,
Yeah. True.
standing in the heat all day. So this, I was reading this and saying, I get it. Yeah, I could see that because people they have it. So why not use it? But I think the logic of just because it's free, the people go, because I don't buy that per se. I don't buy that people are going to the doctor just because it's free. And like people don't want to go to the doctor, generally
No.
speaking. So I thought there were some other things that could be included in here that they did not touch upon. Some other factors not mentioned are controlled by the insurance company. So this idea of networks and authorizations and freedom and flexibility. Let me go through this because I think this was lost in this research paper. This is a case where they were researching and saying, "Oh yeah, moral hazard. That's got to be it. It's free, so why not go?" Free in quotes. What about the fact that there are networks associated with Medicare Advantage, whereas there's not a network associated with Medicare Supplement? So if you're on a Medicare Advantage, you're in a tighter world. You can't just go to any old specialist. You have to stay in network. So that limits you and limits perhaps the amount of times you would go. Additionally, you need prior authorizations on a Medicare Advantage a lot of times versus the supplement. So, hey, I need to see, I want to see a specialist on a supplement. You just go. Yeah, I got this thing in my throat. I'm just going to go to a throat specialist. Whereas if you're on a Medicare Advantage, you got to go to your primary a lot of times first, explain this and say what's going on, and then they have to give you an authorization to see the specialist.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little defense there. They call it managed care plans. And I think that deters people from actually using it sometimes.
Right.
And they don't talk about that.
No.
So it's not just that it's free, it's already prepaid in the supplement. It's also a bit of a hassle sometimes
Yeah.
to use.
Well, the insurance companies are going to love this, the medical system as far as the insurance aspect of it, whether it's Medicare, an Advantage plan, or a supplemental. Those insurance companies are going to want to do anything to deter you from using it. They like that, and that's
Right.
going to be encouraged. What they're going to do, whatever they can, to prevent usage, because that's what costs them money.
Correct. They're getting the same subsidized government payment from Medicare to manage your care. So now they've set up these guardrails to help you to customize your plan and
Right.
manage your plan when they're really a lot of times saying you got to jump through these hoops.
Yes.
Right. Now that alleviates a lot of the, well, just getting random tests because you think so. It's good to get your doctor to say, yeah, I think you should get that test. So I see both sides of it. But when it comes to, well, Medicare supplements are spending more because it's a free for all, I don't see, I think you got to take the other side of the coin, which is there's some restrictions. And, the freedom and flexibility offered by a supplement is people pay for that. So they're paying more. And to I'm not saying vilify, but to say, oh, now they're just being, they're just being egregious with the amount of services they use. Well, that's what they're paying for. They want that
Right.
flexibility. So it costs them more out of pocket initially, which wasn't mentioned in this study. Is like you have to pay for a supplement. So why not factor that in? It would even make it worse if you think about it.
Yeah.
Supplements would be
I mean,
paying
you're
you
not
more.
going to pay for an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet and then go have one slice.
That's it.
Why would
There
you
it
do
is.
that?
I knew you'd get there, right?
Why would you
Right.
do that?
Right. But you also so
Speaking of
you're
health,
obviously going to eat more
speaking of
pizza
health,
if you go to the all-you-can-eat pizza
Mhm.
buffet.
Yeah.
But if you go to a high-end pizza restaurant where
Mhm.
they charge you by the not the slice but the ounce,
Yeah.
like they weigh it, like when you go to the ice cream shops that weigh it, you're
Yeah.
not piling stuff on. You're like, well,
No.
maybe do I need right?
Right. Exactly.
So, conclusion: Medigap users pay more overall than Medicare Advantage users because that's what the study shows, and the reason is not necessarily what I think that they're saying, which is the moral hazard. Is it because they just use more healthcare because it's free or there's no deductible or lower costs out of pocket? No, you got to factor in the fact that they're paying monthly. Um, or does flexibility, choice, and limitations or lack thereof play a bigger role? And I'm suggesting it does. So I'm going to go against the researchers here and use my anecdotal, finger to the wind test and say, I think I know more. No, I don't know, but I think that it's, I think they're lacking a little bit of insight here on that. So I read that, I came up with this, and then I said, well, let me look again. So I went back and looked at it, and then there were comments. And so I start reading the comments, and there are a lot of people like me saying, wait a sec, this is ridiculous. I pay for this, not because I want to just go to the doctor every week because I got nothing to do.
Yeah. Nobody wants to go to the doctor.
Right. But if it's just, you made it a good point. It's like if you go into the all-you-can-eat pizza buffet, of course you're going to eat more. But when it comes to health insurance, it's not pizza. It's like
No, it's not.
So I think it's a little disingenuous to say it's just because.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out and let people know that when you read these research papers, they're kind of siloed. I have a funny feeling that these researchers probably don't understand the whole Medicare versus Medicare Advantage, how they
Right.
work. They're just looking at data, saying, "Oh yeah, they spend more, and here's the reason why." No good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's college age people looking at data. That's the problem. You got people in their 20s looking at data.
Just interview
or
10
30s.
people from Medicare Advantage and
Yeah.
Medicare Supplement and get their opinion, and you'd quickly learn that, oh yeah, those restrictions do kind of bridle what I'm spending on.
Sure.
Right. But
Yeah.
it's
Good
not because
point.
I just want to use it.
Good point. But you can get deep in the weeds on medical issues and our Medicare system, our health system in this country, or Medicare and what it does. But it really should be healthcare costs, and Medicare should be part of your overall financial plan and retirement income plan. And Dan, I know that's something you help people out with. So how can our listeners get a hold of you if they have questions?
Absolutely. I've said before, one of my pet peeves is people that don't retire because they want to keep their health insurance through their employer. There's solutions to that. Even if you're not on Medicare,
Right.
there are solutions to that. And we've done shows on that. It's very important for people to realize that healthcare, I mean, people know health insurance, healthcare is a huge part of retirement. It's a major holdup. I've met with people with millions in the bank that are more concerned about what their Medicare is going to be than they are about how to invest it. It's emotional, but it means a lot because healthcare is most important, more so than wealth care, right?
Yeah.
So we lead with it. We incorporate medicine or health insurance decisions in the retirement planning process. You build the income so that you can afford to pay and you don't have any gaps in any medical coverage. That's just it. So you got to work hand in hand. So if you have a financial plan and you're not talking about health insurance, you don't have a financial plan.
Right.
For the same reason why when you're talking about health insurance and you're not factoring finances, you're not making a good health decision. You got to factor these in. So anyway, easiest way to get in touch with us, 888-508-5935, or go to dolphinfinancialgroup.com and we'll connect with you that way. Thanks for a good show, Tony. Thanks for I'm glad you didn't do the over the hill jokes, because you know what? You're creeping up on Medicare age. So you're like, yeah, I better learn this stuff.
You know what, Dan? I'm not actually, but I think we're all getting older, Dan. Yeah.
Of course. Can't cheat it. All right, Tony, thanks for a good show. We'll see you all next week.
Yep.
All matters discussed in today's show are for informational purposes only.
This show is not investment advice.
Dan Riddle nor Dolphin Financial Group are affiliated or endorsed by any government agency.
Investment advisory services are offered through Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor in the state of Florida.
Insurance products and services are offered through Dolphin Insurance, Inc.
Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc. and Dolphin Insurance, Inc. are affiliated companies doing businesses as Dolphin Financial Group.
You should talk to someone at Dolphin Financial Group before implementing any of these strategies or ideas.